so glad to be here with Theo to kind of share his story and the story of Boston Medical. An organization which has really been forward-thinking, and we've actually worked with Boston Medical for a few years at TraceLink on a few different challenges, and in particular on today, and zooming in a lot of what Theo and his team do is to really look at how they're thinking about their supply network and what it means to BMC, and some of the challenges, some of the opportunities, et cetera, that they've been facing. And so what I first off wanted to start off is, could you paint a little bit of a picture, Theo, on Boston Medical, and what's the focus of Boston Medical and the patients it serves and how it operates?
Yeah, absolutely. At Boston Medical Center, we're a nonprofit organization, so that means we serve patient population on a nonprofit basis. So we have to abide by certain regulations. So in terms of qualification for nonprofit, so we're a covered entity. So that means from the HRSA standpoint, a covered entity is an organization that's serving underserved population. So those on Medicare, CMS, state, federal. So Boston Medical Center serves that patient population in urban cities, so in Boston. But in doing so, they face multiple challenges when it comes to the finances, because the reimbursement on CMS side and on federal and state can be very constrained. So Boston Medical Center really is positioned to help that patient population in terms of providing care to a or underserved populations, and also in making sure they get adequate care. So in doing so, we find ourselves really, needing to stay on top of our budget, and also making sure we have like all the necessary tools, and that's how really we operate at Boston Medical Center. So
excellent. So what about yourself? So what's your role at Boston Medical and the team that you work with?
So the team I work with, we oversee the pharmacy supply chain. So the purchase of medications and also the in and out of inventory. So when it comes to drug supply chain, what comes in from the wholesaler standpoint, and also like the way we operate, it's to make sure we have supplies on hand, so in acute care, ambulatory care, and we interact with the vendors in terms of making our payments, and also we make sure we get the necessary supplies for our patient, and to make sure we serve them. So
okay. So share with us, what are some of the top priorities? What are the things, like I usually will say, what keeps you up at night? What are some of the top priorities that you've had over the past year in your function and for BMC?
So my biggest priority as a supply chain leader is to make sure I stay on top of my drug expense. When it comes to staying on top of that, it's making sure you have the right item, right time, and the right amount, and at the lowest price possible. So that's what keeps me up at night. But in doing so, I interact with vendors but the interaction can be in multiple facets. So there's incoming inventory. We have to make sure we have the right amount. But what's the cost involved? There's the direct purchasing through the wholesaler, which it has a cost associated to it, but also in making sure we stay on budget, we can also purchase direct. So in doing so, it helps us to minimize our overall acquisition costs. So overall, cost containment really is a look at holistically to make sure the supplies we get are adequate and also at the lowest price possible. So.
Okay. So, you talked about you have your normal supply chain that you work with wholesale distributors, and you've talked about how increasingly you're using a tool of buying direct from the manufacturers as well to constrain your procurement costs and things of that sort. So, there's purchasing from that process. There's also the invoicing, the paying process as a part of that as well. What are some of the challenges that you've seen as you have this mix of different suppliers that you're working with?
Biggest challenges we have had, especially when we purchase direct, is to making sure we make our payments on time. And also, as we purchase direct, some invoices can be lost in transfer. Also, in making sure we pay on time, there's that invoice approval, which at Boston Medical Center, we had issues getting those invoices approved on time, and then when we interact also with AP, making sure AP gets those invoices on time to make the payment. So in the last few months, we were facing a challenge to streamline that process internally. But it was in our best interest to make sure we pay on time, but also in making sure we don't incur late fees. So that's how we were able to work with TraceLink to streamline that process in leveraging the capabilities they have in terms of making us connected with a vendor in the inbound process of receiving those invoices and getting to approve those internally, and also meeting our net payable time to make sure that the payment is remitted in time. So really meant TraceLink with Mint application, we were able to make sure that process is streamlined and conducted in a timely manner for us to meet our payment schedule.
So let's unpack that a little bit. Describe sort of, how, say, a year and a half ago, day in the life of how this would happen. Were there number teams involved? Was it something that you had, whether it was PDFs that came in or emails that came in or things of that sort? Sort of describe what that life was like, before you started to take a step to start to digitalize that invoice payment process.
So before we were on board with Mint, the process was very tedious. So we have the defective communication between the vendor and us in terms of receiving, approving, and also payment. So we got to a point we were incurring late fees, and when we talk about late fees on $20 million, $30 million, 18% of that in late fees can add up and be very costly to your bottom line. So what we had as an option is to leverage capabilities from outside by outsourcing other capabilities to make sure we connect with our vendors. And in enabling that connection, we were able to not only get those invoices on time, but also translate in a way that enabled us to approve them on time, and also interface with AP in terms of sending those approved invoices for payment. And in doing so, we were actually able to work with the vendor to secure some discount. So not only were able to reverse those late fees we were incurring in the past, but we're actually saving more by getting those discounts mandated by the contractual provisions in meeting our net payable, and also in making sure we purchase direct, bypassing the distribution fees. So the vendor gave us a discount based on those performance metrics, which were made possible by Mint.
Cool. So you have this bright idea. You're saying, I want to sleep better at night, and so I want to improve the invoicing process. And you have an opportunity to work with TraceLink on that. How do you turn that idea into action? How did you work with your internal team on that to try to make that happen?
Basically, being creative in this business requires to have a look outside the box, because currently we have financial pressures coming from multiple external stressors. You can have inflation on medications, you can have reimbursement cuts. So you have those pressures converging to a nonprofit organization cover entity with limited resources. So me as a leader in charge of cost containment, I need to be more creative in terms of figuring out how to survive in that complex metrics, but also leveraging other people's capability in terms of meeting my needs. That's what we call trade. So I don't have this, but I can leverage my partner to bring me capabilities to meet my needs. So that's how we partnered with TraceLink really in more creative way, because Mint really is meant to be customized in a way that meets the customer needs, meaning I can look at my defects, my internal shortfalls, and work with Mint to actually customize based on my needs and deliver a product that actually solves my problem. That's how I was really able to work with Mint team to be creative. What's holding me back? It's invoices being late, causing me to incur not only high prices, but also defective patient care. So that's the holistic view. If I can solve the transactional defect between me and the vendor, and also getting the item in right amount, right quantity, right time for use. So I have not only just-in-time item on hand, but also solve the patient care need, because if you have no item on hand, you can't dispense it. So that's a patient care issue. Also, the financial aspect of it, by also making sure I stay on top of my budget, was important to me. So that's how I looked at the issue holistically and leveraged the capabilities outsourced from TraceLink to meet my needs.
So like with any dance, you need a dance partner, and in this case, it would be, upstream suppliers, right? Mm-hmm. And so you have this idea, you can organize it internally, but you have to get them to play, right?
Yes.
How did that? Can you paint a little bit about how those conversations went to say, hey, we want to switch to how we're doing this. We think, it's going to be a win for us. We think it's probably going to be a win for you. So can you paint a little bit about how those conversations went and, some of the maybe challenges or ideas or thoughts that you encountered when you were trying to get your partner, if you will, your upstream partner, to play in this journey with you?
Yes, absolutely. So as a supply chain leader, cost containment is what's on top of my mind. I don't care how I get the item in stock. What I care about is how much I pay for it and the cost involved in getting the item on hand. So we were able to be creative in terms of reaching out to the vendor. If we can purchase direct from you, you save on distribution costs when you purchase direct. But in doing so, you also pass on that discount to us for us to really get the item we need, because most likely we get the item the next day, so the lead time is the next day. So I really don't care how I get the item. What I care about is how much I spend on it to get the same item. So that's how we're able to be creative and going direct. Of course, we also have to work with the vendor in establishing contracts to enable that purchasing agreement. But showing that value proposition for them to save on drug distribution and for me to save on drug cost by meeting those contractual obligations, we were able to partner in driving the overall cost of drug acquisition down.
So the conversation around the project really didn't necessarily start with talking about the project. It said, we have this initiative, and here's the business opportunity on both sides.
Yes.
And you needed that sort of foundation of the joint business value for them and you then to take that next step.
Absolutely.
Okay. So now you've gone down this journey, you've taken that first step, looking at Invoice and whatnot. What are are there some learnings looking back at that as far as how you worked internally with the team, or how you're now managing change now that you have invoices being done a different way, you have data flowing in different ways, et cetera? Any initial learnings that in hindsight come to you?
Yes, absolutely. So basically working with multiple teams with multiple processes and capabilities, there's that learning curve, because you have to work with your own internal teams. So you have IT or IT department or FIS, so the team that's in charge of financial information system. Those don't necessarily have the same workflows you have in a pharmacy department, so you have to make sure you involve them as stakeholders in getting to understand the value or the common goals we have. So the common goals we have is to make sure we contain our costs. So those are our partners, but also we have to engage the vendor, because the vendor has capabilities also, but they might not share the same system. So we learn from one another to interconnect to enable that architecture we're trying to build, that connectivity through EDI, SFTP, or those capabilities. But we have to work with them to achieve that build we're trying to establish. So flexibility is key, but also engaging the partners to really show the value that comes from that partnership. So on BMC side, we're trying to solve a problem financially and patient care also oriented. On the vendor side, they make sure they maintain our business, of course, because they want to make it a profit, but also saving on distribution cost also they incur when they do business with us. So it was a win-win on both sides in really trying to extract the most value out of the solution.
Okay. So you started with Invoice as one of the critical sort of burning topics that you wanted to start to optimize. Where do you see things potentially going from here now that you've started down this path? Is it continuation and expansion of the invoicing side? Do you start looking at the ordering side of the equation? Do you start looking at the shipment side of the equation? What kind of comes to your mind as potential next steps?
Absolutely. I would say all the above, because now that we have been successful with one infrastructure, we can scale to multiple vendors, because the more you go direct the more you save. So let's say I'm spending about $120 million on AbbVie medications, so Humira, Rinvoq, Skyrizi. If I'm able to bypass Cencora and purchase direct, I can leverage 2, 3, 5% on $120 million. That makes a difference to my bottom line. So by scaling up that process, I'm able to actually drive value to BMC, but also by expanding the scope, not only on medications, but medical device. How about material management? If I can involve MedSurg to purchase direct these tools, let's say lab needs X amount of item, we can do the same thing, replicate, and bring value to BMC, not just from the pharmacy standpoint, but also material management standpoint. So we can leverage the scale on the pharmacy side, but also the scope to which we strategically go after those value-adding distribution.
Excellent. So one last question, and we'll have a little bit of time for audience questions. So, you've been championing this internally within Boston Medical. We have other current and potential champions in the audience. Any advice you'd give to them as they start to look down this potential journey?
Absolutely. So we're in a very complex environment when it comes to drug distribution or supply chain as a whole. So being creative is key for us to survive and thrive actually in this business. So I would say leverage other people's capabilities. If your internal processes are maybe shortcoming, we can look outside what else is out there that can meet our needs in terms of cost containment, revenue generation, patient care, service level. So all those are areas we can improve upon by leveraging other people's capabilities. That's the mindset trade. How can I use someone else's capability to meet my shortcomings? And that's the mindset. That's the view we have to keep in mind as leaders. Being open to change and also looking outside the box and see things differently.
Nice. We've got time for a couple of questions. If anybody has any questions for Theo. Deep looks in the audience. Okay. With that.
I got one.
Yes, sir.
What's next? We've heard about invoices. Are there other challenges that you think this technology could be used to help you solve for?
Yes, absolutely. So I think Mint can not only do invoices, but also ASN, which we just heard. We can get that for free. So I hope Paul won't charge me for my next upgrade. But
twice as much.
But I'm hoping to use that for also PO tracking, because at BMC we still have issues in using the right PO, because we use a system that generates, our ERP generates standing PO, good for a year. So we have had issues when we match the correct PO to the correct invoice. AP doesn't know any better because they're outside pharmacy. So it's up to me to be more creative by enabling a system that helps AP recognize the correct PO to match the correct invoice, because the ultimate goal is to make sure I do not incur late fees. I get my contractual obligations met, so when it comes to targeting discounts and also those direct purchases. So enabling PO visibility between pharmacy and the vendor to streamline that process. And also ASN, because we purchased some direct items, Prolastine, you can get it from the vendor directly. But when you schedule a doctor's visit we want to make sure we schedule the appointment, patient's appointment, knowing the item will be in stock. So that ASN is critical for me to know when the patient can be actually seen for administration. So we need that ASN. We also need meant for rebate, because I'm going after this vendor. They can enable rebate when we meet certain contractual obligations. So how can I track that those rebates were actually received and matched against my overall invoice spend? So it's all included in one platform. We just need to have a way to enable those capabilities to be integrated inside the platform we're using. So,
nice. Well, thank you very much for joining us today. I appreciate it. Let's give Theo a round of applause, please.
thank you.